Here's a steering damper system that I put on a Ninebot Max. I had an old motorcycle steering damper that I mounted up, and using the monorim front suspension, which makes the mounting of this damper much easier. I just added a strip of steel down here that uses the two original mounts for the monorim, and then it has a bent end just to mount the steering damper there. It's out of the way of the suspension moving up and down, and the bracket on the frame is just a steel plate with a kind of a threaded extension welded on the bracket with a threaded end, and that's what holds it, and a couple of hose clamps and double-sided tape, so there's no drilling of the frame or anything. Pretty easy install. Of course there's no kit, this is my own design, and but gives you a good idea of what it looks like mounted up. I've got full steering lock to lock, no problem, and just the effects of the steering damper are absolutely brilliant. Well worth the expense of adding the system. Of course the monorim suspension helps with the mounting, makes it much easier than the stock system, although I have mounted it up on the original stock fork. I welded a tab on the original fork and then cut a little hole in the plastic shield for where this mounts here. Same mounting arrangement on the frame, and it works fine on the stock setup as well, but of course you need to weld a tab on the original fork on that, so that's a little bit more involved, and you have to modify the original parts. So this is kind of nice because I can leave everything else stock and not have to modify any of the original stuff. But anyway, there we are. It works really good. 2 thumbs up. Well recommended modification. Alright, just gonna give it a real run up the trail so that you can see what it looks like. But anyway, it's so simple arrangement. As long as the damper is adjusted lightly, it takes out that initial nervousness out of the steering that's kind of really affects your confidence. If you have it adjusted too tight, you end up kind of figure eighting down the trail, just constantly trying to readjust the position. It's just too much. But back it off a little bit, and the damping just feels perfect at low speeds, and just gives you a lot of confidence. You can just kind of relax your muscles hanging onto the thing. Anyway, here's a quick little spin, and I still can't take one hand off the bars. Anything above about 10 miles an hour still gets a little sketchy. But basically the general handling, lower speed and high speed, just when you with both hands on, it's just so much more confidence inspiring. It just really settles down the handling of the scooter fantastically. And maybe you can see the suspension working a little bit too, not too bumpy here. Anyway, this damping system on the steering just works fantastically well. There you go, here's the setup on the standard Ninebot without the suspension. So I had to weld this bracket onto the original fork and then cut this hole in the guard, and then the mounting is the same on the frame, and yeah, works perfect.